Hello and welcome to this week's episode of They've Been Doing It All Day, Sir. I'm Ben.
And I'm Chris.
Let's hope we put in a better performance than the referees over the weekend. Let's get stuck in.
How's your week been, mate?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Long weekend, Anzac Day weekend. Took the family down to Kiama. We had a wedding down on the coast down there. Some unbelievable views. Probably one of the best venues for a wedding that I've been to. Was really good to get the family nice and dressed up and celebrate the marriage of my wife's cousin. So yeah, it was really good. Good weekend. What about yours? I noticed you're wearing a Birmingham City jersey there.
Yeah, thought I'd shake it up a little bit. Birmingham officially lifted the League One trophy Monday morning. I stayed up to watch it. Beat Mansfield Town 4-0. Absolute fantastic performance in front of a packed St Andrews. So yeah, I thought I'd wear the jersey with pride. We've beaten the League One record for points.
How many are you on now?
105.
Nice.
So we've got the next one is the EFL points record, which is 106. So we've got 2 games left. Tough away game to Blackpool, actually. We'll see what comes of that. But yeah, other than that, I had a good day out on Saturday.
Yeah, nice one.
Which was backed up with a fantastic performance over at the Combank. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But other than that, it's been pretty chilled. Yeah,
so we travelled out to Parramatta for the Penrith versus Manly fixture. Not the first away day that we've been to. We've been to a few, but the first time that we've seen Manly win away, which is something
incredible.
At least we can tick off. But comparing away days to the UK, how do you feel they compare with what we experienced on Saturday? Although it's not Penrith's home ground, I know, and maybe an experience or some experiences from a Birmingham away game.
It's massively different. It's a lot quieter in that sense, and I suppose with it being a lot of the NRL teams are different parts of Sydney. It's not as big as when, like, for example, Birmingham travel down to London. You're met at the train station by police. You're escorted to the designated away pub. You have a few drinks in there, and then you get escorted to the ground, which is completely different to what happens here. You don't realise anyone's going to a game until they get off at the stadium. If someone's not in a jersey, you wouldn't have a clue where they're heading. Whereas if you're on a train on a Saturday, you've got a good idea of who's going to a football game, because they're the ones that normally have got 3 crates of Stella between 3 of them at 7 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. They're definitely heading somewhere for the day. But now it's a little bit quieter. It's something that I will always hate out in an away game, is when you sat there and the home team scores and you see most of the stadium. It's a horrible, horrible feeling.
There was a point on Saturday as well where Penrith scored to go ahead, but it was thankfully disallowed. Yeah. And you know what? It's one of those ones where you stand up, you're like, oh no, not everyone around me giving it some, especially as we were giving it a bit as well before that happened.
You have to.
Indeed, but one of the things, I posted up a photo on Instagram on our Instagram account. Follow us along. It's They've Been Doing It All Day, Sir, on Instagram and all socials. But I put a little caption underneath it from an iconic film from back in the day, which anyone of our generation, maybe a little bit older, a little bit younger, could relate to, is The Football Factory. Probably the film that I watched the most growing up. I genuinely reckon I've watched the film close to 100 times. But I thought, how would I explain The Football Factory to an Australian audience? And I thought, let's use AI to help me with this. So I put in ChatGPT, how would you explain Football Factory to an Australian? And it came out with this. It's set in working class London. It paints a raw picture of masculinity, tribalism and identity, kind of more like an aggressive version of Chopper. Have you seen the film Chopper?
No.
Oh, it's actually a good one. It's about I forgot the name of the guy, but he's in prison. He was one of Australia's most prolific gangsters, and he's in prison. But it's Chopper with club rivalries you'd see in AFL. And one thing that did make me think of is there are a lot more rivalries and fan kind of rivalries in AFL compared to the NRL, and the crowd sizes probably have an impact on that, but it certainly sets up more of a raucous atmosphere inside of the stadium. But it says here, rivalries you'd see in AFL, but on steroids and with a heavy dose of UK street culture. The film is less about the football and more about the culture around it. And that's an important thing. The away day is all about the culture. It's all about getting together with your mates, going to watch your team you support, having a few beers, maybe a bit of aggro here and there as you're doing. But yeah, it's one of the films that when I was growing up, I remember watching loads, as well as Green Street came out after that as well.
Two absolute cult classics right there. Charlie Dunham's horrendous attempt at doing a Cockney accent as well. You do grow up watching it. The thing is, I imagine that's what it was a little bit more like in the 80s and 90s when you go follow away. Whereas now everything is just so policed. You can't really separate other than like the big incidents like what happened at Wembley in the Euro final. Like there's the odd scuffle here and there, could be a little bit, but it's not like that. The meet-up still may happen. I'm so far detached from it all that you do hear about it sometimes. I remember one home game actually, I think is around Easter, around years ago now, and Millwall had travelled up to Birmingham, and
tasty.
And they'd it was on an anniversary of someone's death or something, and you saw something had been planned because the Millwall at about 70 minutes, the Millwall away end just disappeared. Like a load of them had left, and a lot of the boys in the Blues end, the Blue Stadium as well, had started dispersing, and you're like, it's all gonna go off
kick off somewhere,
which was that it might have happened all that. But then me and my mate, we went into the town to have a few beers after, and then when we were on the train back to our area, you could see the fans had just been let out the stadium, and they've been marshalling down like cordon after cordon after cordon, and that's a massive sort of difference to how it is over here. And then compared to the films, it's pretty similar. You get locked in the away ends. You have a load of beers with your mates and stuff like that. So
definitely tribalism though.
Yeah,
like,
massively.
It is a huge tribalism factor, and men just being overly stereotypical, aggressive individuals, but
simulated.
Yeah, if one thing I thought about this, if there's any Australian film or any Australian kind of cult films growing up, let us know down in the comments below, because there's certainly some things that we could watch along and understand kind of. I don't know if there's any AFL films out there that might backdate that we could watch, but give us your suggestions of what we can look at. But let's get it stuck into the fixtures from last week and talk about our performances of the round. So who did you pick this week for your top performer?
I think I went very I was very biased with this one, actually, not gonna lie. Just because of what's been happening the last few weeks and the circus surrounding the man, I've gone for DCE. He honestly on Saturday looked like a different player.
He did.
He was a lot more confident in what he was doing. And me and you had a very continued conversation throughout the whole day of the addition of Turbo into that, and I just wasn't having it, because a lot of the stuff that had happened previously was not Turbo related. It was missed passes and stuff like that, whereas everything he was doing was just on point. He just led the attack extremely well. Had 2 try assists, a massive
huge
try saving tackle on Talangi.
He knocked. So Hopewati came in and knocked the ball out as well after he done that. That could have swung the momentum of the game
massively. Stopped the momentum there, and he just led how he normally leads, which was incredible to see, and especially against a team like the Panthers. Yes, they've been on a horrendous run this year, but you can never sleep on them. You've always got to be performing your fight, and he's kicking to Alaquatu as well, like the Alaquatu chase down. I went a bit mental when that went over, but that's mine. I do have to give a little shout out to Cobbo though. Shifting to fullback, he was incredibly impressive.
He was
Thursday,
everywhere. He was running the ball hard. I think he's going to give Michael Maguire something to think about when Reece Walsh is fit.
Well, as if you've listened to pretty much the whole thing, we're not Reece Walsh's biggest fans here, so in my mind, it's a no-brainer. Shift him straight into fullback. He just adds so much more back there. And it's like someone coming off the back fence every time he returns a kick. So
for sure.
Who did you go for?
Similar sort of vein, actually. A lot of media scrutiny around this individual, a lot of stuff going on with the club, a lot of lawsuits, outspoken players. But I think Lockie Galvin turned up for the Tigers this weekend, and from minute one, in fact, it was early in the game, but he provided an offload assist for the opening try, which was great. And then similar fashion towards the end of the game, try saving tackle on I can't remember the prop's name.
Yeah, big old boy.
Headband around his head. His name's gonna do my head in. But yeah, stops him within inches of the line. They whip it out, and then again another try saving tackle by someone else on the wing. And if it wasn't for that, the Sharks go ahead and win the game. But yeah, Lockie Galvin for me, I think, was the performance of the week. A lot for a young 19-year-old to go through.
He's a talent.
It is, but also how much pressure is his manager putting on him? Like, obviously he wants to do right for his family, and he put it all behind him, went out there, number 6 on his back, or was it 7? 7 on his back.
7, yep.
7 on his back, and just put a solid performance in. So yeah, mine is Lockie Galvin this week.
Unreal.
And then my flop of the round, it's been talked about everywhere, so I don't feel like I'm doing anything new, but the bunker. The involvement of the bunker over the weekend. Now, I could say the referees, but I don't think it's the referees' fault. It's the pressure being put on them by the bunker to... One that gets me is when they go back 4, 5, 6 tackles or whatever, and then call something that is just a brush on the chin, or one of those ones where how is the player meant to do anything else? They put themselves in a position where they think they're in a good position to make a tackle. Someone lowers their body, someone gets tackled and falling forward, a forearm into the face. It's going to happen, but then it gets called and they get put in the bin. You look at Takiaho's, ridiculous. You look at some of the Dragons one, some of the Sandon Smith's one as well.
Sandon Smith
was ridiculous. There was a couple for the Titans, but I actually think they were. And then one that's caused a bit of controversy is Sorensen's one. I actually do think that was a sin bin. Like he fully, all right, he's bracing for contact, but he turns his shoulder into Nathan Brown's chin.
It's a shoulder charge. It's the definition of a shoulder charge, and it's just poor technique there. Like it's very hard to do, but if you're in the middle there, you have to break. You've got to put yourself in a position to make the tackle, make a hit, or you just take a step back, let the two lads either side of you make the hit, and then you follow in after.
Yeah.
It was. He just found himself in a horrible situation and
braced for impact and caught him on the chin. Yeah. So
had to go.
And you look at, to be fair, you also then look at the bunker and some of the decisions they did in the Manly game where Tavanga got done for a headshot by the referee, but then the bunker overruled it and said it wasn't a headshot. So they're kind of undermining the referee on the field.
It's getting silly. Like the ref's call should be final.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to have this. Someone, I imagine it was very difficult for the Panthers game as well, for Panthers Manly game, because you have good old Ashley Klein in the bunker, who's
Mr. Ego himself,
all about me. And it must have been so hard to referee that game and trying to make the decisions. And I think Belinda Sharp did a great. I personally thought I may be looking at a bit more bias. I thought she had a great game refereeing. She was consistent throughout. She was what she was doing, other than just being brought back. But we'll discuss that a little bit more when we get into the actual game itself.
Yeah,
yeah, they were.
Who
massive.
was your flop of the round this week?
Mine was the Dogs. I
can't argue
for doing what I thought they would do, but they just didn't execute it to within the legal standing.
Yeah,
I thought they would go up to the Broncos and they would drop some big hits in, and it was said on commentary a few times, this is the closest to Origin, that Origin game without being Origin, which I had said before, but they were just so poor with the discipline. Like some of the tackles they were putting in was, they just lost their heads.
Yeah.
And I think from when I turned on, I think I missed the first try, but from that 6th minute, I think I turned on, it was just downhill discipline-wise for them.
Yeah.
And it was shocking.
We'll touch on the game in a second, but even linking yours to mine, like Montoya wallops someone in the face with a forearm, doesn't get binned for it, gets put on report, I think, but then actually gets binned later on for something that was minuscule, like it was a brush of the head. And that was, I suppose, both the Dogs' ill discipline and the bunker and referee decisions. But like, look, Curran's was 100% a sin bidden.
Massively.
And there was some ill discipline within the ranks, especially Tupanua's knee to the head, which we'll talk about when we review that game. But yeah, not a great round for the Dogs, the discipline of the Dogs, and the bunkers / referee decisions. On that, there are some honourable mentions that we're not going to dive into, and we'll cover some of them throughout the game. But I do think there were some standout performers this week, which were like Tom Dearden for the Cowboys, had an absolute ball game. Sandon Smith, even though he got sent to the bin, had an absolute ball game as well. But we'll go through those when we go through the fixtures. Better tipping this week from the both of us.
Massively done.
A lot better tipping. We went 6 for 8. We didn't pick the same fixtures. I went for the Broncos in the first game. You went for the Bulldogs. So I got that one. And then you went for...
Your reverse psychology.
My reverse psychology worked. I didn't pick Manly, and Manly won. Like, Penrith lost. So whoever I tip loses, although I got 6 right this week. So we'll see how it goes. And I'm definitely picking Manly this week because they got the bye. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through some fixtures. We're going to go through them in a bit of a different order as well this week. We're going to go through them in what we feel was the kind of most talking points of a game. And we're kicking off with the Broncos against the Bulldogs, which coincidentally was the first game of the week. What a hot start you mentioned from Brisbane.
Incredible.
Brisbane's offense was on fire. Adam Reynolds seems like he was just moving the ball about with ease. But I think, they scored after 90 seconds or something like that?
Yeah, but the discipline of the Dogs didn't help that. They then went down the other end on the set. I think they got a kick that went too long, so it was then a 7 set, and that's when Josh Curran got sin-binned. I think it was, or there was a high shot. No, it was the set before they do a high shot, get a penalty, they kick it down the other end, boom, they score their second try, kick off again. High shot, which I think was Josh Curran's sin-binning, penalty, kick it up the other end, score again. And there was just so many times throughout that game where it was either the kicks going out or the high shots. They were massively pumped for the game, the Dogs, but they just let that rule them, and the hits they were going in for were just not controlled, and they got stung for it.
They certainly did. But we said last week, like, this is the Bulldogs' first test.
Yeah,
they've played some all right teams before this, but fundamentally, the Broncos look good offensively. They look good with the ball, and let's see how the Bulldogs go against that with their solid defense. And they were 34 points down at half time. Yeah, and Adam Reynolds just had the ball on a string. Like, when they were a man down, he could see where the space was. He could see that. Who was it open on the wing? I think it was Arthur's or Marino, but whichever one was open on the wing he was kicking it into space. And they were just picking up easy scores. But I tell you, another player that just keeps performing week in, week out. And I saw on the Matty Johns show, they do the VB hard earned index, and he got the highest score that's been recorded on the VB hard earned index, and that's Payne Haas. And he got 125, which any score over 100 is decent. So to get 125, and what did he run for?
260 odd meters. He's put that, but that's not just the odd occasion. I reckon he must be averaging close to 200 a game at the moment, which for a prop is stupid numbers.
And when you're doing that, we've mentioned this with Manly, right? What's missing? If you've got a forward just constantly breaking through the line, making meters, making post contact meters, everyone then focuses on that, opens up the width then to spread it out wide, or Reynolds to boot it over the top, and it just allows the wingers, which Jesse Arthurs, I think, is on 10 tries now for the season, top scorer in the competition, and that's because of those hard meters that are running through the middle. So they're all just capitalising on Payne Haas's effort in the middle.
Well, not Reynolds, Carrigan as well is putting in the yards. Like he's got a great part. Like Haas has got a great partner there, in Carrigan, where he's putting meters in as well. He put in 178, and it's like, come on, that's over 400 meters from your two props, which you're expecting from your fullback and a couple of wingers. And when you've got two props who are causing so much, and we've talked about it previously, but they're causing so much trouble in the middle, the defensive line has to come in, which then leaves so much space out wide. And like you said, Reynolds had the ball on the street. He had an unreal 40-20, which again pushes the Broncos over. And he was just finding space everywhere, as you said. And it massively helps when you've got big boys up front that can do the job. It
does. Reynolds had a bit of a shoulder injury. Reckons it was just a stinger. Been named this week, so he's back. But one other question: Tupouniu's not Tupouniu. It is Tuipulotu. No, Tupouniu. It is Tupouniu. I get the two of them mixed up. Tupouniu's sin bin in one of his on reports where he kneed. Who was it in the head? I can't remember who it was. He kneed in the head. Brandon Piacora kneed him in the head. Do you think that should have been a send off?
It's difficult to always. I'm trying to think. I don't know, to be honest, because from a point of view of he knows exactly what he's doing. There is no reason for his knee to be anywhere near that high going into the contact, and it then completely gets rid of the point of tackling low, because if you've got players that are going to be going into contact like that, then you completely.
If you're given a red for that, then it will potentially
So it's going to be. It was a horrible thing for him to do, and he shouldn't have done that. But it's you're gonna catch knees. But like I say, he knew exactly what he was doing. That was quite a aggressive thing. What's your thoughts around it?
I can see why it would be a red. He raises his knee up and knees him in the head as going into contact, which you'd get a sin bin in if you'd done it with your forearm.
Yeah.
And your knee's a lot more powerful. And if you're going through someone's heads, and we're talking about reducing head injuries and risk, I can see how it can be given a red, but it just goes to show what are the parameters of certain tackles. Like I heard Andrew Abdo come out and say the referees are going to be given more freedom, what they call, and it's only the bunker's going to interfere with if it's a serious incident that is a red. Well, how are you going to define what it is? Because with language such as moderate force, high force, where's the definition of what it's going to come in? So I think it could have been a send-off, but he's been punished in a way that he's got a five match suspension.
But the issues as well there. I think in real time it'll be really difficult to notice those sort of things going into contact, because that sort of thing happens so quickly. The ref is also going to be at a different angle where they'll be behind the defensive line, so to see through might be a lot difficult. And then how often is the bunker going to be watching an attacking team and wanting to bring back to that? So I think there's some logistics around that will cause some issues, because you don't want to go back on that one and then the next tackle it be an absolute massive high tackle that you miss. So it would be difficult. But how do you think the Dogs are going to address sort of this disciplinary side of stuff going forward? They've ended up losing some big players.
Key players, yeah. Interesting, we talk about them aggravating people and rattling people. I think they got rattled this weekend, and they got in their own heads about a style of performance that they needed, and they needed to go out there and be physical against the likes of Payne Haas, and they just took it one step too far. Now, when they come up against a Melbourne Storm or someone else, another that's got a Toya Kamano or whoever that can run the ball similar to Haas, how are they going to do that? How are they going to reduce it? They've just got to make sure that what they're doing is legal. They've got to really focus on that, because if they had, what does that mean? They had 3 people put in the bin. They lost. That's 30 minutes of the game that you're down to 12 men. Game, all right. Broncos scored early, but it could have had a massive outcome. It could have been a completely different scoreline. We'll see who they've got. Magic round next, so everyone's playing up in Brisbane, but the Dogs have got the Titans next, who we'll review that in a bit, but I feel they should be all right in that one.
Would be interesting if they'd left Brisbane.
What do you mean?
Whether they would have travelled back down to Sydney, or they would have just stayed up there for the week and trained up there. Would make sense logistically.
Yeah, it would. It certainly would. That's a lot of travelling after a game as well to be recovering.
Yeah.
But yeah, who knows? Well, let's move on to the next game. We're going to move on to the West Tigers defeating the Cronulla Sharks. We both went for the Sharks in this one. Both got this one wrong. What an atmosphere it seemed at Leichhardt Oval as well. It was absolutely packed. The hill was packed. There was no moving room. And as I mentioned earlier, Lockie Galvin felt he had a pivotal performance. But how significant was it that he was included this week compared to last week? Do you think he could have stayed out? Do you think they would have got that win if he wasn't playing?
No, and one of the things I've got here is him being back in the halves, and then Adam Doueihi going back out into the centres, back into his natural position. And he was just so composed, and his game management was incredible throughout the whole game, which, as you said previously, for such a young player to have, it was fantastic to sort of see from that side of things. His skills and attributes in the halves are too good to be missed, and the Tigers just capitalised on a Sharks performance where they had chances to see the game out and see it to bed, but they just didn't capitalise for out of it.
Yeah, to me it felt like the Sharks let one slip here. Massively. There was a few times towards the end where they could have easily been in field goal range, but they chose not to. They played the ball one more time, or they weren't in the right position, or they slipped, or were indecisive. Lockie Galvin's tackle on Hazelton, that's who it was. Hazelton, he saved them the game. So it was a pivotal moment there. But the Sharks had enough. The Sharks had enough to beat the Tigers. Did the crowd getting behind them maybe helps out. But I think if you were to look at this one stats-wise, I believe the Sharks would have come out on top.
It says everything when the Sharks missed 5 field goal attempts, 5 drop goal attempts. That's massive. And fair play to Adam Doueihi as well. That one, even though it was in front of the post,
forever to kick it as well.
And it's quite funny. My dad always says the hardest kicks are always in front of the post.
Yeah.
And they are to a certain extent, because you've got so much expectation to slotting it over, and with that pressure of it being Golden Point, a packed Leichhardt Oval, and if he missed this, then Sharks could have gone up the other end and scored. But fair play to the boy. I
think a minute and 10 ticked off that.
But again, it's like, why isn't there a shot clock?
I know, it's bonkers.
They've got it for goal line dropouts. They've got it for scrums. Why don't they do it for kicks as well? It's ridiculous
bonkers to me. But what do you think this does for the Tigers? What do you think this week? It's been a controversial couple of weeks. A lot of media hype around the club, but what do you think it does for them?
I think they're just going to continue how they probably would have done pre all of this, if I'm being perfectly honest. They're going to be in that pack fighting probably for 7 and 8th. Yeah. From what I saw on field, it looked like everyone was, as I said last week, as soon as they got through in between those white lines, everyone seemed to be getting on with their job and acting very professional. Galvin may have been sat on his own in the changing room after the game, not interacting with everyone. You don't know. Or they could have just put everything to bed and let bygones be bygones. And so there's not much come out from it. But I think they're just going to continue to now. They've got rid of it. They've managed to shut it down and turn it around quite quickly. Unlike Manly, where they went for 3 or 4 on the trot. I think they've managed to deal with this, and it'll be interesting to see what they do at the weekend. What are your thoughts on that?
They got the Dragons, which will be an interesting one, but I think that Benji Marshall done a good job of coming out in support of Lockie Galvin as well, whether that's fueled by the club and the lawsuit kind of aspect of things, but it gave a message of, I feel, solidarity from coaching staff, and in turn kind of eliminated some of the ill thinking from Taruva, Luai, and I don't know whether they were potentially forced to say a few comments to support, but like you say, as soon as they stepped over the white line, you wouldn't have known that there was any issue going on, and I feel it's reset them back on a path where they're going to be contesting for that top 8 spot, but you never know with this saga continuing, people trying to sign him, what speculation of where he's going to go, this lawsuit, hopefully we won't hear much more of it moving forward.
If he had the right people around him, as his management team, I'd probably turn around to him and go, this year we're not going to entertain any conversations with any teams, because they've still got another season.
Should be end of 2026.
Yeah. So it's going to be the end of next season when he'll end up signing. So if I was the management team, I'd just concentrate on the Tigers this season.
Yeah.
And then we'll deal with new teams next year, because he's going to be on show for the whole of the NRL now. Like pretty much every team is going to be on notice, watching him and seeing it, because pretty much every team needs a decent half.
Yeah.
And he's going to be auditioning all season. And I know teams are going to get in there, get his signature early, so they beat everything off. But the early signature doesn't always mean that they're going to end up going there. Look at DCE with the Titans in 2015. But it's one of those where I think if you look at it now and what it was then, I reckon the likes of Taruva and Luai may have been a bit early to jump on his back.
Yeah.
I think they let the hype of the media. You don't know what happens inside the changing room.
Meant to be on a personal Instagram story and all that rubbish.
I think they just let it get better of him. No one spoke to Galvin around it. Like it was like Galvin never said he didn't want to play for the Tigers 100% for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And they jumped on his back a little bit. So unless they've had some very open talks about it, which you need to do early on and whatnot. And as I said, if they're aware that they're pulling in the same direction, I don't see it being an issue anymore.
Yeah, and just a shout out to one player in this game as well before we move on to the next game, but Terrell May, again, like him and Payne Haas are going to absolutely terrorise the Queensland.
Yeah.
Queensland.
But I don't know. You've got Paddy Carrigan there as well, like opposite, but...
We'll figure that out. But Terrell May, I think, again, over 200 metres, was just absolutely in everything, running the ball. His stock has risen so much massively this season. Don't know why the Roosters let him go, but go on.
I did say there was going to be a big Terrell May and Fanua Blake battle. Just looked at their run meters; they both got 228.
There we go. To be fair, Fanua Blake was a standout for the Sharks as well. He's had a very consistent season and been doing well, but. Talking of teams that let one of those players go, Terrell May used to play for the Roosters, and the Roosters kicked off the Anzac Day fixtures against the Dragons and absolutely steamrolled them.
They did. It just, again, very early try, set it up nicely, and they just there was a bit of back and forth in the first 20. It was a lot closer than the scoreline actually gives, but then in that last 10 of the half, they just ran away with it in the first half for the Roosters, and then they just came out and he just continued after half time as well.
I was watching this when we went out for lunch, and there was a screen in the corner of the pub that I was trying to watch. It was blocked by a plant. It was so annoying. But every time I looked up at the screen, it just looked like James Tedesco, Sandon Smith, Nwanga Tuase, whoever were just breaking lines, breaking through, and there was just support runners all over the place. I think Sandon Smith broke through and threw it to Tedesco, who dropped one, and they could have had over 50 in this game.
Oh, yeah.
It just seemed like they were just breaking through with ease, and the Dragons had nothing to stop them.
And I felt a bit sorry for Gutherson in this game.
There's two instances. Go on, I know exactly what you're about to say.
There's two instances where he just looks like a right donkey. I feel so sorry because there's nothing he can do.
He's made the decision before either of them.
He's still trying to tackle Tedesco now. Like he's still out there sliding. But it's just one of those instances where the 2-on-1 has broken so early, and they've got such a gap between them that he has to pick one or the other. Otherwise,
you just have to do one little pump, and you're sending him down the river.
And I felt sorry for the man because there was, as you said, there were so many instances where the support running was incredible. Like that's what you've got to realize. It is when players were breaking through, they had people either side of them, which gives the chances. But yeah, Gutherson. Bless him.
Poor guy. But one player that did perform, we've mentioned him before for going in the bin, but the winner of the Ashton Collier medal on this Anzac Day fixture was Sandon Smith. He scored 2 tries, kicked 7 goals, and he got 22 individual points. I think Ruben Garrick might be the only one that's scored more than him in an individual game this year.
How good was his little kick-through assist?
When he was getting tackled, he's almost getting like his head ripped off as well in that tackle, and he's leaning back and just nudges it, and Tedesco goes over and finishes. It was very impressive. So obviously there's the talks around DCE going to the Roosters to replace Sandon Smith, so that he's playing with is it Luke Keary? Is that no Sam Walker?
Yeah,
Luke Keary's the one that's gone to Catalan Dragons, but playing with Sam Walker. But if Sandon Smith's putting performances in like that week in week out, they don't need DCE.
No,
they'll be all right. But obviously the controversy around him going to the bin, it was called back again.
I don't agree with these being sin binnings. When you're going into it,
he was falling forward as well. I can't remember who it was that he hit, but it was Lockie Ilias that he hit. He was falling forward after being tackled from someone as he's already committed to wrapping the tackle, and he just caught him on the jaw. Yeah, all right, it was contact with the head. Just give a penalty, don't sin bin.
Yeah, that I completely agree. If you want to punish it, it's a penalty, not a sin binning. Like arm shouldn't be a It shouldn't be a sin binning. It should just be shoulder
or, with intent
or violent. Yeah, but with that, when you're trying to wrap, or when you're trying to punch a ball out as well, and the forearm brushes it's not like the swinging punches into them to try and knock them out. Like there needs to be a bit of common sense around it, and this could be the issue where you don't have players. You don't have people within the refereeing that have never played the game, or never played in a contact game where they don't understand what's happening. But nah, that one was never a sin binning for me.
100% agree. But where do the Dragons go from here? They beat Manly. They've just got a big defeat put on them this week, and they've decided to drop Lockie Ilias as well. The lineup's got announced, and he's been booted, yeah. And he was always one that was on the kind of chopping block early. But it will be interesting to see where they go. And I think defensively they've got to improve. Like I said, they were just getting. Every time I looked at the screen, there was 4 or 5 people just running through the line. And even early on in the game where, we mentioned about when Nwanga Nitawase broke away, if that was Dom Young with the ball, probably would have scored because he's a bit quicker. But even still, like, they're sloppy in their attack. They're kind of not making the right passes. And
this is what makes the loss to the Dragons for Manly so much more infuriating, because that's how the Dragons played against Manly. And I said it last week that there was just no attack in the tent from Manly, and I mentioned if the Dragons turned up and played like that against the Roosters, they would get points put past them.
And it was Tyrell Sloan's breakaway again that put
another couple of breakaway tries, there's some underlying. They seem to be limping to victories. Like apart from the anomaly of beating the Storm on a cold Wednesday night sort of thing. They seem to be limping over.
For who they've brought in, I'm quite underwhelmed of how they're now performing. Yeah. Val Holmes, point scorer. You could still see, though, he had the pace on the wing on the edge and was doing well. And Gutherson makes good decisions in when to break a line and stuff like that. But it just seems like there's no connection. There's no chemistry or something with all these players. Tuapoloto being out injured doesn't help. He was on a try-scoring bit of a run, so I don't know, but they've got a difficult fixture this weekend in playing the Tigers, which we'll preview that soon. But yeah, who knows what's going to happen with them? I think they've got a tough couple of weeks coming up, and they need to really start getting some points on the board. Moving on to the Sea Eagles, 26 defeating the Penrith Panthers 10. For me, this game, it felt like Manly are trying to create a new identity with their defence.
Okay.
Or the defensive side of the ball. Very American the way I said defence there. The defensive side of the ball. And one thing I noticed in this game that I thought was very good, which is something we've got wrong in previous seasons, is when the ball goes out wide, our wingers crash in too early and the ball is over the top. To me, and I don't know about you, it felt like our centres and our wingers were working well together to flow with the attack. And then when one needed to crash in, they crashed in at the right time and didn't allow that overlap on the outside. But what's your thoughts on Manly's defensive identity?
Yeah, I agree with that. It did look a lot more solid in defence.
Even without Jake there as well.
I think one of the things that has been talked about quite a lot is how much more mobile Manly's pack was. And I was worried about the pack size and the sort of the difference that may have had on sort of that, but they held their own. They held their own. They were a lot more physical. You messaged me, like, Luke Brooks is an absolute animal in defence, and it's not the first time he's put in that sort of performance.
He's such an underrated, unsung kind of He doesn't get the stats. He doesn't get the plaudits, but yet he's just teams target to run at him, but they don't realise how solid of a defender the guy is. And he wears the orange boots as well, so he stands out. So when he's one of those ones that just does the acceptance tackle, but it's effective. Yeah. It stops it.
And his hit on, was it Cleary when he knocked the ball out as well? Like it was just all over, like for the whole team. And I really enjoyed the switch up in sort of having Tavanga at lock and Simpkin at 9. Like that just seemed to be a lot more.
Simpkin was very impressive.
He was always attacking. He was always looking to go forward. There's that breakaway
as well that he went on.
And but no, the defensive side of things was a lot better.
We've said it when we sit up in the Ken Arthurson and we talk about it. We talk about our goal line defence, and we say, and we always preface it with, I hope I'm not about to curse this, but our goal line defence looks solid. It's when we have the odd day against Melbourne, which we got absolutely blown away, and the Dragons, we were still solid defensively, breakaway. It's just we can't seem to get it going in attack.
No.
But this game looked different.
Yeah, massive. And the defence this week was backed up by the attack. And again, another early try sort of dictates the going for the game.
And what a great run by Garrick to break through the line as well.
And it was just so good to watch.
But even like we talk about, you say Turbo does it. You don't reckon Turbo makes that much of a difference. When the ball goes out to him and he flicks it out to Talau, this is exactly what happened in the first game of the season against the Cowboys. That quick little flick on, and Talau's around the edge, great run, and then what a line by Tolu Kola.
Oh, what a move. Like listening to all the interviews, apparently they made that up at half time. The coaches made it up at half time.
But the way everyone's expecting it to go out wide, and then all of a sudden he's running this underneath line, and the Panthers line have just gone out wide, and he's just there straight through it. And as soon as that happened, that was it. Icing on the cake, done. Absolutely went mental. But talking of decent tries, the main man himself, Hamole Olakawatu.
I enjoyed this.
We talk about Dylan Edwards at fullback, right? And we said something last week, which I'm reflecting on now, and I'm not too sure about it. One, that he's guaranteed New South Wales fullback. But two, we say as well how good he is in the air. He got out-jumped, out-muscled, out-wrestled by Olakawatu for a high ball, which is kind of a bit of his specialism. Yeah. And he comes down and just bullies it through the line.
I'm gonna back I'm gonna back him up a little bit here. Like those are some of the hardest to bring down in the sense of you're static being jumping up in the air while you've got someone rushing on, and someone of Olakawatu's size is always going to out possibly jump you. But that's the first time I've seen Olakawatu really battle in the air for a ball.
There's a still photo.
And it was unreal.
I don't know if you've seen it. There's a still photo of him catching the ball and he's almost staring at this camera in the distance. And he's like, yeah, I'm about to score this. And he's just got this look on his face that's just poetry in motion.
Yeah. Oh no, it was incredible. Like, but these are the sort of moments in what I was saying that I don't believe in the turbo effect that much, because that wasn't happening last week or the weeks before. Like that little kick up to Olakawatu, that's not Turbo being back in the team.
I agree, but then I raised the point of Turbo draws attention to him, which allows other people the freedoms to do what they do. So, for example, on that Kola try, Turbo's kicking to the outside, so people have to follow him and respect him. And then Kola's just back on the inside. And with him, we are so much more of a threat. Don't get me wrong, Hopper White is a good player. I think he's a better winger than he is fullback at present.
100%.
But with Turbo in our team, we just have so much more presence going forward.
And it was fantastic to watch. And it was getting to that point when they came out in the second half, they scored straight away, and they went pretty much back to back in tries. I was like, oh fuck, here we go. Here's the Penrith. But I think two turning points was the try saved by DC and Navali as well. Those were two big ones.
Arm under the ball,
underneath, like that. Those were two massive points, and then Manly just turned it back on.
But
again.
Linking back to Jake Simpkin as well, it was in that moment where we were under the cosh that he picked up that ball and broke off the play of the ball, and ran it down the field. And I'm not sure whether the kick came off of that. I don't think it did, but it swung momentum back in our favour. But what are we saying about the Penrith? Like, what's the future for Penrith?
They're genuine spoon contenders, which is crazy.
I am going to say this now. I don't think they're making the top 8. Write them off the top 8.
So much has to happen for that. And that, again, that team they had out wasn't a weak team.
No.
Like this is a pretty similar team that they've had week in, week out, and maybe Fisher Harris is a more bigger of a loss in the middle than I thought he originally was. We've mentioned about Jerome Luai all the time, but
do you know one thing? Speaking about Jerome Luai, they mentioned it earlier, and I can't remember where I heard it. Jerome Luai turned up with an arrogance, right? When it was him, Stephen Cryan, and Brian Toto, they'd turn up with the boom boxes. They'd turn up with the swagger, the everyone hates us and we're just going to turn up and beat you in your own backyard. They've lost that now.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any menace. There's no fear of playing the Panthers. And when that disappears, we say, the Panthers' right edge is the edge to attack. We were attacking their left edge. Talau scored over on the left edge. Garrick scored over on the left edge. And it's like, we'll score wherever we want. Maybe I'm getting too far ahead.
It's good to enjoy it. And Seibold's got some decisions to make now. And I don't think he can watch that performance and ignore how much better the pack was.
Yeah.
And even if it's a case of starting Jake at prop and then bring in Bullymore on, Bullymore brings such a massive edge.
Yeah.
Like when he starts or when he comes off the bench, he adds so much more. He just adds something. He just adds so much more energy. And the one thing I liked about Tavanga at lock was he turned into that as a outside of ball playing.
Yeah.
Lock, which opened up a lot more as well, I reckon.
Yeah.
So
where do you reckon we're tracking for the season after that? I mean, the concern is it's only the bottom of the table, Penrith Panthers, so we can't get too ahead of ourselves. We've got the bye, and then we've got the Sharks up at Brookie.
The way the Sharks are playing, I reckon we could do them at Brookie, but it depends what Manly are going to do with this week. Like how many players Sharks are going to lose to sin bins at Magic Round if the refs are happy. It was just a different team to the 3-4 weeks.
Played with confidence. There were limited mistakes. And we spoke about it on the car journey over here with the announcement of Jamal Fogarty signing today. $2 million over 3 years. You hope the pressure now goes of who's going to play halfback next year. Let's just open the gaskets up, some fire on all cylinders, and see what we can do. So let's go to Sea Eagles. I think. Well, this could all come crashing back down to it.
I'm not going to get too carried away. It was a great sort of joy to watch.
Yeah.
Amazing, different performance, very similar to how Manly started the season. But they need to back it up now.
I agree. Let's move on to the Raiders against the Dolphins. The Raiders beat the Dolphins 40 points to 28, an absolute high-scoring affair in which the Dolphins shot out to a commanding lead.
Yeah, I think the Raiders have just got a little bit of arrogance around them and just starting to give teams head starts and go, yeah, it doesn't matter how many points you're going to start with, we'll come back and absolutely dominate you.
Yeah.
And considering what the Dolphins have done the past previous weeks, when I saw them go ahead, I was like, God, this could be an absolute bloodbath.
Yes, I agree.
But Jesus Christ, didn't the Raiders half turn it on?
They did. They were 28-10 down at half-time. Ricky Stewart in the dressing room must have absolutely fired a rocket up their arse. But just before half-time, Dolphins scored potentially a contender for try of the season.
Yeah.
2 kicks, and then was it Nicarimo who put it through, and Jake Avarillo gets it down. And at that point, when they go 28-10 up, you're like, they're going to walk this. But whatever Ricky Stewart did to them at half-time, said to them, they came out and absolutely turned it on. And again, there were so many standout performers in that second half, I think, for the Raiders. Hudson Young adds another try to his... You said he was going to get a double. He didn't. He only got a single.
No, he didn't. It was Matty Nicholson this week.
Oh, sorry, Matty Nicholson. But they're just... I believe that they've got tries from everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, massively. And Jamal Fogarty, he orchestrated that. And the Raiders did to the Dolphins what the Dolphins did to the Storm the other week. They shut them out in the second half and put 30 points on them, which is incredible. How
many was it? 34 unanswered points or something like that. They put them in the second half.
They put on it was 30. It was 30 in this, but and it was just so good to see. They just attack, and they are real top 4 contenders, I reckon, at the moment.
They are.
With what they're doing and this attack from everywhere and everyone getting on the score sheet. I did put a cheeky flutter on a multi for this game. I had what did I have? I had the hammer, Then
Scored.
I had Hammer, I had Matty Nicholson,
Scored.
Sebastian Chris,
Scored.
and I had Hudson Young for 2.
Yeah, you put him down for 2.
Yeah, I had him for 2, and then Jamal Fogarty and Isako for I think 6 points. As I always increase the odds a little bit, and I was fuming. With Hudson Young. You can get in the bin, but it was incredible to watch them, and like you said, it's just the attack from everywhere. It just. Every team is going to have to be switched on defensively all over the place, and they can't. As you're saying there with Turbo, well, you got to give Turbo the presence. You've got to go with him. With them, they've got to go with everyone. Like they've got to make sure everyone's covered.
Fair play, great victory for him. There was another ridiculous sin bin. Cody Nikorima got stuck in the bin again for a brush on the chin, but I think we've spoken enough about poor referee decisions. Yeah, moving on to the Cowboys and Titans, a little bit of a Queensland derby in this one. This one was tight up until the last 20 minutes. It was 18-all with 21 minutes to go. But after that, the Cowboys were just relentless. Yeah. Robert Darby scored 3 tries, got 218 metres, 4 line breaks, and Tommy Dearden 5 try assists. He absolutely contributed to their dominance. But it seemed like they just turned it on with 20 minutes to go. A couple of sin bins in this, but I think they were actual sin bins. Yep. But yeah, put on a performance.
Oh, they did. And... again, it's sort of the Titans going out to a very quick lead and
blew out to a lead, yeah,
and just imploding again. They put on what was it 50 unanswered points. That's got to no.
Nah, that
sorry.
It was 18-12 at half time.
48. Oh no, sorry, I'm reading something completely wrong here. Sorry, my mind's gone. They scored what 7 of the 9 tries in the second half, so that's a fair whack of them. I'm not going to go through the conversions and stuff because we'll be here forever.
Yeah.
But it was incredible to see what they did and them turn it on. And this is what the Cowboys have in their locker, and it was just fantastic to sort of see Drayden, as you say. It's going to be an interesting one, especially I've been listening to it within the NRL that they have Queensland have quite a dilemma with their halves, and it may benefit Manly in the sense of not taking DCE. And
if Turbo and DCE don't get picked for Origin, then we could absolutely fly through those 3 games.
Yeah, that could be massive because we'd probably lose Olakuatu, and that would probably be it.
Maybe. Like, there's some contenders for that second row.
Second row, yeah. You've got Hudson. Yeah, there's some very good Hudson.
Cal McCallum-Matangi as well, who put up in a good performance.
It'd be interesting if Manly do go unscathed. But yeah, great performance by the Cowboys.
They scored 38 unanswered points.
38 unanswered points, thanks.
But one person that didn't have the greatest today, Brock Gray, poor geezer, got sent to the sin bin, and then I read earlier that he tore his ACL with 2 minutes to go as well, so he's out for the season. So rest up, buddy. Been back from that injury. It's a difficult one to come back from, but you've got more support than I had, so I'm sure you'll be fine. But on to the Melbourne Storm against the Rabbitohs. Now, we both predicted that this one would be an absolute blowout against the Rabbitohs, but it wasn't. It was quite a tight game, but Melbourne just seemed to execute in what they needed to do. They seemed to do it. Ryan Pappenhausen got on the score sheet again, and they seemed to target Jai Gray. It seemed like they were running at him because he was playing out of position. Well, not out of position, not at fullback. He was playing at centre.
No, was he hooker? I thought he was playing at 9 at one point. He was playing in the halves. But so they were attacking that.
Farlongo just turned him inside out, put him on toast, and then offloaded the ball to Pappenhausen, who nearly fumbled it forward on the inside. But yeah, Storm 24, Rabbitohs 16.
The Melbourne. It wasn't that convincing a win for the Storm. The Storm just didn't seem to get going, especially considering what they've done previously at Amy Park this season, where once they've started scoring tries, they're decent.
They're very good at home.
They've absolutely loaded it on teams. And I don't know whether it is having Mitchell back at fullback. He's a lot more of aware positionally.
Yeah.
And sort of slowed them down. It wasn't a convincing win for the Storm, and there was points in this where I thought the Rabbitohs may actually. But it's little
mistakes from the Rabbitohs where Shearmich Jerome Hughes boots the ball up in the air, and then Katoa just seemingly runs onto a ball that no one's contested for, carries, and then goes over for a try.
Yeah,
and that kind of swings a bit of momentum back in the Storm's way, and there was, to be honest, I think Xavier Coates' try, I'm pretty sure the 2 passes before that were both forward as well. I mean, we could talk about the forward pass in the Titans-Cowboys game from Big Tino, but we've gone past that one. But it just seems like if Melbourne get the upper hand and they can stop you, then you don't stand a good chance. But I'll tell you who did have a game for the Rabbitohs. Jack Whiten was physical.
He had a very good game. Just putting the yards. He's sort of getting into his own. He scored, what was it? Yeah, it was 2 tries in that game, and he's very good at centre, and he's a hard person to stop as well.
I think he's playing 6 this weekend because of Mitchell being out. Jai Gray goes back, and then Whiten's coming in.
Another halves partnership for the Rabbitohs this season, and it just seems to be happening every game. They're losing someone, and fair play to them for not being as low as they sort of could be. In that sense, what are they? They're 4-4 at the moment, and fair play to them. And I think that is the Mitch Wayne Bennett effect. Where
they've won games that they probably shouldn't have.
And I think that does have an effect. And it'd be interesting to see how many halves partnerships that they've had this year. I reckon they're on about 6. So, but fair play to them on that side of things.
Two quick things. One thing, Jack Whiten for Bentley Harpe's try, when it got knocked out of Whiten's hand, he absolutely trucked whoever it was beforehand, which was impressive. And then, I don't know about you, but Latrell's hit on Farlongo was awfully similar to Joseph Suolii's hit.
He was gone. When I watched that in real time and I saw him Superman through.
No arm, just straight shoulder.
There was nothing. That was just off his. How he got away with just a sin bin, I do not know.
I do not know.
I think if you're leaving your feet and it's
with no arms, no nothing,
straight direct contact to the head, I think you should be gone.
Yeah, he's lucky he didn't take his head off. Although he failed the HIA, I believe. So
how he escaped that, I do not know.
Do not know, but
it was mad.
We were messaging each other like, how he's just taking his head off. On to the final game of the round, though. The Newcastle Knights. The New Zealand Warriors 26 defeat the Newcastle Knights 12.
Up the waz.
I am so bored by the Newcastle Knights. It is unbelievable. They average 10 points a game. I did a bit of research in this, actually, because I was like, they've got a minus 74 points differential, which isn't too bad, right? It's actually quite low compared to some other teams, but they're only averaging 10 points a game. What's going on? So let's compare them to the Warriors. The Warriors have conceded 148 points, right? Gosh. The Knights have conceded 146. Not that much difference. The Knights have only scored 72. The Warriors have scored 144. Warriors are currently 3rd in the table. The Knights are, 15th? But they look terrible.
They look dreadful.
But on the stat sheet of points differential, they're not that far. They're not that far off defensively.
But the massive thing is the Wires are 4-0 at home.
This is very true.
If every game was in New Zealand, they'd be winning the comp.
They would be. I think from this game, Jackson Ford stood out, Adam Pompey stood out. Both scored 2 tries, and it just seems like Newcastle haven't got anything going forward. No. They look bang average. They look one-dimensional.
Even Ponga couldn't get it going either. Like you said, he would have a big performance, but he just struggled. Apparently,
he was singing the New Zealand anthem before the game as well. I
saw a few players do it during the weekend.
Considering he's meant to be representing Australia, that's all. But his allegiance may be changing. Who knows? But I think Adam O'Brien he's in trouble. He's on the chopping block. But I read as well, we bumped into a friend on the ferry on the way home on Saturday night. And he mentioned about Jackson Hastings being at the Knights. I read that he's on 800 grand. And yes, he's had a bit of a turmoil in the past, a few personal issues. He's the guy that had a falling out with DCE. An issue with DCE at Manly, and then spent some times in the Resis, and everywhere he's gone, he's kind of been dropped from first string, went over to the Super League, did pretty well over there, got Salford to a grand final when they were tipped for getting relegated. So he had an impact and then come back to the NRL with the Tigers, got them a couple of wins under Madge Maguire, but then he's gone to Newcastle on this huge contract and he's again fallen out with whoever. But he's on the bench, and do they need to... this is difficult. Do they need to switch things up? But I've also read that he's also free to leave to go anywhere else. But who knows what they're going to do? Adam O'Brien is certainly under pressure.
Yeah, something needs to change.
Something certainly needs to change. But summarising the round, which team's stock do you think went up the most?
Up the most. Our Raiders, I'm going to go. I think they're really starting to cement their position.
For me, the Cowboys, like they managed to absolutely pump the Titans. Yeah, all right, it was the last 20 minutes, but considering they had such a poor start to the season, they're now starting to put in performance after performance, which could see them challenging around that like 7 to 4 spot maybe. It's going to be an open competition, but who do you think's stocks are falling?
I think the Sharks. I'm going to go the Sharks. I think we had massive hopes for the Sharks this year. I think we thought they were going to be a lot more better and a lot more, as I said at the start of the season, they were going through the motions and getting professional wins. They just seem to be dropping, and I think they could be more in the bottom 8 than they are in the top, and I think their stock dropped a little bit. What about yourself?
For me, I'm just going to have to go with Penrith. I believe that they put in a great performance against the Roosters, looked like the Penrith of old. Everyone thought, they're back. And then they got dominated by Manly. Like, Manly shut them down. It seems like they were almost trying to force things as well. Yeah. Teams are figuring them out. Can't see them making the 8. And I believe that, their stocks have fallen well off. So, interesting one. But we move on to round 9. The magic round of the year. We went up there a couple of years ago. Manly were playing against Brisbane on the Friday night. Got absolutely tucked in, but we then also got tucked in by the beers. We got absolutely on it, which was a good one.
Yeah, that was heavy.
That was a heavy weekend. But this year, the magic round kicks off on the Thursday night with something that I didn't realise until I was looking up these fixtures, with the Ampol Women's State of Origin Game 1.
I'm shocked that it's so far out from their season, and I feel sorry for the girls, to be honest. Like, a fair few of them were in that Gilaroo squad who played against England, but they would have had to keep themselves up to a certain level and sort of not having that much of a break, like a pre-season break, than all the other teams' players. So it's going to be an interesting first game. I think there's going to be a few mistakes. I think players are going to be finding their feet.
Fitness, fatigue.
Yeah, it's going to be. I reckon we'll be seeing a lot of players go down with cramp as well, quite late on, just like Manly were doing at the start of the season. Just reading into it a little bit, John Strange has been brought in as head coach for New South Wales off the back of winning the comp last year with the Roosters. So that would be very different to last year in that sense. And there's a little bit more inexperience within the Queensland side. They've got six debutants within the squad over New South Wales 4. So it's going to be a great game. Like, some of the games last year were incredible to watch. But I'll be going New South Wales blue the whole way through.
Exactly. You just took the words right out of my mouth. I don't think I'm ever going to back Queensland in anything,
even
though I'm not a full New South Welshman. But I'm going to back the New South Wales in this one. So on the Friday, 6 p.m, we got the $1.49 Cronulla Sharks against the $2.64 Parramatta Eels. Tough one to call this.
This is a real tough one, and we discussed it in the car way over. And I think I'm gonna stick my neck out a little bit on this one and go with the Eels.
Oh, yeah,
with Mitch Moses and his creativity in the last game over a very dull Sharks team
who have just lost to the Tigers, who the Eels battered.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go for the Eels on this one.
Yeah, I think that the Sharks can't come out and put in back-to-back games like they have. Mitch Moses being back is a huge inclusion for the Eels. But I think the Sharks will bounce back from the performance last week.
Yep.
And I see them getting this done. So I'm going to go the Sharks. You're going to go the
Eels. It's quite nice. Adds a little bit of competition between the two of us,
Bit of spice to the
it?
competition for sure. But then on to an even closer one with the bookies. The 8:05 p.m. kickoff. All games are at the Suncorp. Have you seen that the turf has just been relayed for the Suncorp?
Yeah, half the ground. They've had
how it's going to survive. I don't know.
They've had Union on there. They've had League on there. They've had the football on there as well. It's taken an absolute battering.
How it's going to survive this weekend, new turf being laid, I do not know. But the second game on the Friday, 8:05, we've got the $1.88 Sydney Roosters against the $1.96 Dolphins. Where's your money?
I'm going to go for the Dolphins in this one. I've just got a little bit of a gut feeling as it's up in Queensland, and they've been doing quite well up there. Like there's literally nothing to really separate them on form of the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
like the Roosters took an absolute battering from Penrith. Not Penrith. It
was Penrith.
It was Penrith. Sorry,
yep.
They took an absolute battering. Dolphins took an absolute battering sort of last week. I'm going to go for the Dolphins.
Yeah, even though a Roosters home game, I'm going to join you in this one because it's up at the Suncorp, which is their home stadium. I'm going to go with the Dolphins. They've got the ability to score points. They showed that against. Why has my mind gone blank? Who'd they play at the weekend that we were just talking about? The Raiders, who are a solid team.
They still put 20 out of points on, didn't they? So.
Exactly. So I'm going to join you with the Dolphins on that one. Real tight game, though. That could go either way. It all depends which Roosters turn up. Then on to the Saturday, the 3 p.m. kickoff. We got the $1.70 South Sydney Rabbitohs against the $2.16 Newcastle Knights. We've spoken a little bit about how they're going to rejig their pack, the Rabbitohs. Significant favourites in this. I wouldn't say heavy favourites. Significant favourites. Jai Gray back at fullback.
Yeah, I'm going to Rabbitohs. The Knights are just, even with all the changes that the Rabbitohs have had, the Knights have just been so one-dimensional in everything they do. And I think having Jai Gray back is going to cause a lot more problems for this Knights defence, as he's a lot more mobile, he's nippy, and he can just create gaps all the time. So I'm going to go the Bunnies.
I'm going to go for the Newcastle Knights.
Okay.
And my thinking behind this is not to cause controversy, but they cannot continue to put in stinker after stinker after stinker of a performance. Something's got to change for them.
Yeah.
Neutral venue, Magic Round weekend, first game on the Saturday. I reckon the Newcastle Knights are going to get this done.
Nice.
We'll see how it goes. Then on to the 5:30 p.m. kickoff. We got the $2.02 New Zealand Warriors against the $1.82 Queensland Cowboys. 4th versus 6th in the ladder. Who are you going for?
I will be going with my theory that now it's outside of New Zealand. The Warriors lose all their power and they become a different team. And also just backing up with what the Cowboys did against the Titans. They can score points, Warriors league points. The Cowboys can also defend quite well. So I'm going to go for the Cowboys.
I'm going to go with you on this one as well. I believe the Cowboys back up their performance of sticking 50 on the Titans last week. The Warriors don't necessarily travel well. There will be a heavy I believe there'll be a heavy Warriors contingency in the crowd, but it's in Queensland again. Hopefully the Cowboys get a good showing down there. I'm going to join you on this one and go with the Cowboys.
Also, that's going to be the 5th game
on this turf,
on the pitch. So God knows what it's going to be like on the Sunday.
Yeah, and then up next, the 7:45. Let's hope there's no rain because this could be cut up. We got the $1.87 West Tigers against the $1.97 Dragons. 9th versus 10th on the ladder. This is a very interesting one. Who are you going with?
Gosh, this is a very difficult one. The form the Dragons are in, and they still haven't got Tupelua, have they? They haven't bought him. They haven't got him. Tuipulotu. I'm gonna go for a Tigers win here. I think they sneak it.
I believe that win at the weekend at Leichhardt Oval is going to give them a big boost of momentum. Lockie Galvin being back, him and Luai seemingly playing well together.
Yeah.
I feel the Tigers get this one done as well. Then on to Sunday. So that was a Super Saturday. We've got a Super Sunday as well because there's 3 games on the Sunday. The $4 Gold Coast Titans against the $1.25 Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Bulldogs are missing a few players through injury in this one, through suspension.
Yeah, I thought they've lost a big bit of their spine, and I really thought that they may possibly go on a little bit of a losing streak.
You got to remember the Titans scored 20 odd points against the Dogs as well earlier on in the season, their first game of the season.
That doesn't really change it for me, to be fair. I think the Dogs have got enough to beat the Titans. Don't forget that the Dogs are they can be a very good defensive team. I think last week was very much a lapse in that, but yeah, I'm going to go the Dogs.
I believe this all depends on how fast the Titans start and whether they can maintain it.
And if there's a pitch left.
But I'm going to join you with the Bulldogs. From what I've seen of them, they will be too good for the Titans. And I can see them keeping the Titans to a lowish score and maybe being a low score affair itself of a game. Then on to the Penrith Panthers, $2.23 against the Brisbane Broncos, $1.66. This is the sort of game that the Panthers are just going to turn up for, because this is a rematch of the 2023 final. It's up in front of the Suncorp fans, Magic Round. The Panthers will want to put on a performance. Where's your money going with this one?
I'm surprised the Panthers aren't $4, if I'm being perfectly honest. I'm going to go. I can't look past the Broncos after last week. I can't see anything other than that Broncos team winning. Like if Reynolds has the ball on the string and if Cobbo brings them forward in attack again, don't forget they've got Payne Haas and like Manly's middle disrupted Penrith's middle, and that's arguably not one of the best middles in the comp. Broncos have got probably the 2 best. They've got the best prop combination in the league, in Carrigan and Haas, and that's just going to cause them absolute havoc. And surprised Scott Sorensen didn't get suspended, but
he's challenged it, so it might be 2 games, I believe, because he's challenging it, and the outcome will determine whether he's playing this weekend or not.
But no, I'm going to go for the Broncos on this.
I believe the Broncos have got too much for the Panthers. Yep. What I've said about them losing stock and kind of not being the team that they were, I believe Broncos at home, even though it's a Panthers home game, there's going to be huge support for them. They're going to want to back up what they did last week against the Dogs and kind of cement their credentials as one of the top 4 contenders. I believe they win this, and if they turn it on, I believe they win it quite comfortably as well. Then on to the final game of the weekend. This could have the worst surface going for it, and it is the Melbourne Storm, $1.50 favourites against the Canberra Raiders, $2.58 second versus third. This is a tough one to call.
This is massively tough, and I think it's going to be all down to who starts the best. With the Storm limping to the win against the Rabbitohs last week, and the Raiders just doing so well. Like my head is saying definitely Storm, but my gut is saying this is a game for the Raiders to really cement where they are as a team. Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to jump on the bandwagon because of old Matty Nicholson and joining that English army. I'm going to go for the Raiders.
Yeah, the Storm, I believe, are going to want to put on a better performance than last week. Yeah. I am so undecided about this one. This has got potential to be game of the round. It all depends how the pitch is. When they played the Dragons, when the Storm played the Dragons, they didn't fare too well in terrible conditions. No. So if the pitch is cut up, we'll see how they go. I mean, I could say I'll take the easy option, pick the Storm just to create controversy, but I'm actually going to pick the Raiders.
Bold.
Actually, considering I picked them for the spoon at the start of the season, been really impressed with how they're going. KO Weeks had a great game last week as well. Tamale, Timoko, Chris, they all just seemed to... Savage was good, Strange, Foggy, they all just seemed to perform. I think the Canberra Raiders get this one done. And then... Manly have the bye, so guaranteed 2 points at Magic Round. That's something that we haven't had for the last 3 seasons because we were getting battered by the Brisbane Broncos, which is, a positive thing because we jump up to 10 points on the ladder.
Going to win the comp.
Hopefully going to win the comp. But thanks for tuning in for this week's episode. We're looking forward to Magic Round. We're going to review all the fixtures next week and look forward to Manly's return when they come up against the Cronulla Sharks the following weeks. But be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Have a good week.